Welcome back to Trading with CJ. Now, one of my favourite things to do is to catch a plane and fly off to somewhere that I haven't been before. I absolutely love travelling, so it'll be no surprise that I'm a big fan of the travel industry. Now, I don't think we need to go into too much detail on this, but the travel industry is obviously suffering majorly at the moment, and all airlines have taken a huge hit. Now, all of these airlines' share price has dropped massively. We can see a lot of the companies, a lot of the airlines were going quite nicely, some of them even close to their all-time highs, and then they all pretty much look the same. They all have a vertical drop straight down to some of them even all-time lows. And at the very best case, we've got about a 40% drop. Some of these even around about 75-80% drop. So I'm just going to put 4 companies up here just so you can see, get an idea of how these airlines have performed. This is for UK-based airlines. So we've got EasyJet at the top, and then we've got Dart Group, aka Jet2, IAG, also known as British Airways, and then Ryanair. So these are 4 UK airlines, and as you can see, they all look very similar in terms of their graphs. They're all kind of doing all right, and then they all have a very sharp drop when the crash happened back in February, March. Now, this is just the UK companies, but it's very similar for all the US airline companies. So take United, Delta, American and Southwest Airlines. All 4 of those, the big 4 American companies, all look very similar as well. They was going very nicely, and then a vertical drop straight down to pretty much all-time lows in a lot of cases. So this is a global issue now with the airlines. But I'm just going to pick out one of these here. So let's just take EasyJet, which is the UK airline. Most people have heard of this company. They have flights all around Europe. If we look at their graph, they're currently 30% down from where they was a year ago. So 30% down on their 52-week. And their 52-week low was actually £4.10. So they dropped down to £4.10 thanks to the crash. And it has recovered quite nicely, as you can see at the time of filming this. It has recovered, but it's still 30% down. And at that big drop, it was about 60% down or so. So it's recovering, but it's still a way off of what the share price was. And if we look at this graph as well, in February time, it was hitting all-time highs as well, around about January, February time. So it has a long way to go for sure. Now, I wanted to show you the EasyJet graph because I want to show you its maximum graph from 2012. You can see it's very much up and down. And this is kind of similar to a lot of airlines. They're not really stable in terms of growth for a lot of these companies. It's up and down, gradually growing in most cases. But I found one airline here in the UK which is kind of different to this. So that is Wizz Airlines, as you could probably tell by the title of this video. If we look at the Wizz Airlines graph here, you can see that if I go maximum, it is growing. It has been growing. It doesn't look very similar at all to EasyJet. This is back from 2015. It was at quite low prices, and then it just shot up, and it's been kind of on an upward trend ever since. Some dips here and there. And in terms of how it fares with a crash, it's very similar to the others. It does have a vertical drop from where it happened, but it's much less than all the other companies, and it has recovered a lot more. It's currently only 6% down from where it was 1 year ago. 6%, which is just amazing compared to every other airline out there, which is even 30, 40, 50% plus. This company is only 6% down. So when I saw this graph and I saw the growing as well over the years, I couldn't help but resist to jump into this company. So let's have a look at some of its financials and see how it's getting on. The EPIC code is WIZZ for Wizz, and it has a market cap of 2.8 billion. At the time of recording this, it's currently trading at £32.84p, and it did hit highs back here in February of £44.96, and it hit lows, which was around about where the crash happened, of £20.06p in the last year. If we look at its maximum graph here, this is what I'm talking about earlier. It's been growing. As you can see, this is all the way from 2015. It's just been growing. Its share price has done very well. It had a little drop off here, and then it has just continued to grow, hitting its highs moments before the crash. Now, if we look here at the price volatility, this is quite interesting as well, actually, because most airlines, as you can see here, it says the industry, it sits very higher. And when you look at most other airlines, they are around about this red region. Whereas Wizz Air, whilst it's definitely not the lowest volatility stock, it is kind of halfway, which is quite nice to see, which means, you know, there's not those huge fluctuations in the share price. Now, according to Simply Wall Street's, Wizz Air is undervalued by 22%, with a fair value being £42.09p. If you look here at the PE ratio, it's currently 9.8, which is that exactly of the industry of 9.8 as well. The PE ratio it's not the lowest one, but I quite like the fact that this was slightly higher compared to some of these other airlines. It means maybe there's a bit more faith in this company, hence people are buying a lot more shares. Looking at their future growth here for the next 1 to 3 years, from 19 analysts, it's predicted to be 18.8%, which is great. And we can see here the earnings and revenue growth forecasts. It's predicted to have a nice growth here come 2025, and it's going to continue to increase. Obviously, there is a slight drop off here in 2021. I think that is pretty much expected with pretty much every single airline at the moment. Now, I always like to see the future return on equity. It's predicted in the next 3 years by analysts to be 21.5%, beating the industry, which is only predicted to be 11.6%, which is great to see. Also, scrolling down here for the past performance, this is great. 13.2%. It has continued to grow and grow, which is great. A lot of these airlines are a little bit more iffy around this area. Some of them even negative at the moment. 13.2% for Wizz Air. And the earnings and revenue history here, which is great, it's still in profit. It's obviously dropped off here, as you can see, ever so slightly, but it's 10.2% profit, which is great. A lot of these airlines at the moment are in negative. They're hitting a lot of debt because they've had to take on a lot of debt to survive this current crisis. But Wizz Air is in a 10.2% profit margin at the moment. Now, Wizz Air has one of the best current return on equities. It's 22.8% at the moment, which is almost double that of its industry, which is 11.6%. So Wizz Air is considered very high. So looking at some of its balance sheet here, you can see here 1.57 billion, that's in euros, to 1.32. So its short-term assets beat its short-term liabilities, and its long-term assets are also beating its long-term liabilities. So that's nice to see from this company. Now, its debt to equity history, as you can see here, it's currently recorded to be 25.8% debt to equity. So, you know, it's not great that it has more debt, but I think you'll struggle to find any airline that doesn't have more debt to equity. But this is one of the lowest debt to equity ratios. If I just give you a valuation of IAG, British Airways, they have a 208% debt to equity. Even EasyJet, which I do really like EasyJet, 63%, which is really the next best airline for the UK that I've seen. A lot of these companies are very high. Jet2 of 112% debt to equity. So for this just to be 25%, that is very good. Now, looking at their balance sheet, I really do like this. You know, there's going to be a bit of red there. They've got 318 million debt, which isn't high at all. And even just in cash and short-term investments there, 1.3 billion. That's just great. And you can see physical assets, another 1.8 billion. This balance sheet is pretty good for an airline company. And then the last thing to see on here, dividend yield. Obviously, there is no dividend yield. Any airline paying a dividend at the moment is crazy because they're all making huge losses. Whether it will get reinstated in the future, we can have a little look here, actually. It's not predicted to be any time in the next 2023, but I don't think anybody investing into airlines is investing for a dividend payout. So now if we're going to compare Wizz Air to some other airlines, let's just go back to the 4 UK ones I mentioned already. They're quite big companies here in the UK. That was EasyJet, Jet2, British Airways and Ryanair. If we're going to compare it to those 4 companies, Wizz Air has the best profit margin by far. It has the lowest debt to equity ratio, and it has recovered the most out of every other airline in terms of its share price. Now, the airline industry is a very speculative play at the moment, and a lot of these companies are struggling. And if there was to be another spike or something else that was to happen, a lot of these airlines could go under. So it's very important that, first of all, you understand the risks, and second of all, you're investing into a company with good balance sheet and a lot of potential growth going forward. Now, for me, Wizz Air is a very under the radar company. Not many people have thought about this one, but it does tick both of those boxes, and it is in one of the best financial positions. For me personally, it is one of the best airline stocks to buy right now. Now, these are just my personal opinions. I'm not a financial advisor, and as with anything in this industry, these are very speculative plays and they can just change within a second. So it's very important that you do your own research before investing into the stock market. So let me know in the comments below, are you investing into any airlines at the moment? If so, which ones? Have you considered Wizz Air before? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, I appreciate if you could hit the like on this video and subscribe to my channel. I post videos every week. Let me know what other stocks you may want me to analyse as well. Thanks for watching, and until next time,